It starts with shifting the way you think about the business and who you are in the business. So what we teach is you've got to think like an entrepreneur. Financial planners do not think like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs think about, number one, a vision. What's the vision that I'm out to cause in the world? Number two, they think about who are the people that I need to put in the right place to accomplish this vision. And then after that, there's the systems, the processes, the technology. So the whole mindset's got to shift to how can I create something that lives on even in my absence? How do I have a business that I could take off 6 months from and it's still going to grow? And I know that no one's going to call me and say, hey, the thing's on fire. We need you back. So very few advisors have that. Very few successful advisors have the people, the systems, and the processes that allow for them to have any sort of entrepreneurial freedom.
Welcome everyone to High Performance Financial Advisor Podcast. Thank you to all my listeners. Today it's my honor to welcome Josh Crawford to the podcast. Josh, I walked past at Future Proof hearing him talk, and the words that he was saying made me turn my head and think I want to listen to this guy, and more importantly, want to get him on. So Josh serves as co-CEO and head coach at Matson Money, focused on translating the science and academics of investing and leadership. Prior to joining Matson, entered an intern, I believe, and was a sports star before having a terrible injury and falling into financial services. You've won the inaugural RIA Intel Rising Star Award in 2022. And I think the emphasis really is coaching and leadership coaching more than anything. You've got lots of awards that I could list, and you can tell me that, and we'll put that in the comments. But yeah, it's great to have you here, Josh. I know we had a really good chat at Future Proof. Welcome to High Performance Financial Advisor. How are you?
I'm great, Tony. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad that you reached out because I really enjoyed the conversation that we had at Future Proof, and excited about what you're creating. And it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. So Josh, tell me, who are you and what do you do and who do you help? That's a really big question.
Who am I? The question of all questions. I don't know yet. I'm still looking. Yeah. My role here is a co-CEO of Matson Money. We are a financial management firm, technically a TAMP. We manage about $12.2 billion in assets. And we're multi-layered in the sense that our focus is on helping financial advisors scale their practice from the traditional financial planning model, which is one-on-ones, endless meetings, lots of free consulting, lots of begging and hoping and wishing to bring on new clients. And we really flipped the model on its head, and we teach and we coach this one-to-many model to advisors. It's an entrepreneurial way of running the business where the financial advisor, as the founder, has an opportunity to have some freedom from their success. And Tony, I think we're in a unique industry where success doesn't equal freedom as an advisor. So I talked to all these advisors at 100 million, 250 million. And in most business, you would think, hey, if I'm successful, I'm going to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor and I'll have some entrepreneurial freedom. But this business is set up in a way that the more successful you are, the more trapped you are. So those are the advisors we help. Advisors at the 100 million to 250 million, and they want to scale the practice to 500 to $1 billion or more, and they want to get their life back.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? That it doesn't mean freedom, I suppose, because everyone's always chasing this dream of whatever it may well be, and then you get there to the top of the hill and realize maybe this isn't what I thought it would be. But one of the things that I read something that you quoted, which was managing the person is just as important as managing the portfolio. And I love that quote. So I think that's amazing. So can you just elaborate on what that means to you and how you can come up with that quote and any examples of what you mean by that? Because I love that.
Yeah, it's I think it tells the story of the investor. So to put it in a simple way, let's pretend that you had the best engineered portfolio on the planet. It was irrefutable. This is the absolute best way to manage money. What we've seen from 35 years of experience in our company, I've been here for about 12 years, is that even if you manage the portfolio perfectly, the human being is going to mess it up. Why? Because they're people. So what investors are dealing with is cognitive dissonance. They're dealing with biases. They're dealing with emotions. They're dealing with instincts. They've got fear. They've got greed. And they've got all these processes they just come with being human, that are driving their behavior. So more importantly, even than managing the portfolio, is that you can manage an investor to stay disciplined through a lifetime. And I could tell you in our American Dream experience, which is this 2-day course that we have, and we've had thousands of people go through it, and you hear people share their experience as an investor. And the horror stories that we hear from, the tech crash all the way back to the 2000s, when people put all of their money into tech stocks and S&P stocks, and they're up, 47% from 95 to 2000. Everyone says you got to be all in tech. And then the market crashes and people lost next to 75% of their wealth nearly overnight. And if you panicked at the bottom, you lost. Same thing in 08. Market drops, people panic and they lose. When the reality is investors should be doing the opposite. If you manage the person, when there's a market crash, they see it as a buying opportunity because things are on sale. So I think successful investing takes discipline, and it takes discipline over a lifetime. And one of the things that makes investing a really unique endeavor is that it's not like a diet. If I'm on a diet and Tony, you and I, we go out for dinner and you got a great restaurant, you're like, you got to get the dessert. You got to get the dessert. I can break the diet, have the dessert, and I can be okay tomorrow, right? But with investing, all it takes is one mistake.
Yeah.
All it takes is one moment of weakness, and you can literally destroy a lifetime worth of wealth creation. So that's really where that idea comes from, is that managing the person is just as, if not more important than the portfolio, because they come together. And human beings are irrational, we're emotional, and we need some guidance. Now, I've seen some of the most disciplined people swear their hand to the Lord. I won't panic. I won't panic. I get it. But then comes a pandemic. And those same people are calling saying, get me out of the market. And what we see, and I think this points to the larger topic of coaching, is not facilitating the request of an investor during a moment of panic, but rather saying, I got that. And we're not going to do that. We're not going to sell. We're going to buy more while it's low, and you're going to reap the benefit. So yeah, I think that encompasses where that comes from.
Amazing. So leadership coaching is your focus now, coaching leaders, right? That's a real focus for you, which always fascinates, because I'm older than you, Josh, as people will see from the beard, but I'm from a generation where I think I've seen two types of leaders. One in the old days when people kind of slapped you around the head and said, work harder, work harder.
Yeah.
And then the new world where it's creating an environment for people to thrive, right? So I've probably worked and seen both and been led by both. To you, what does coaching, what's the difference, I guess, the first question, what's the difference between coaching and managing, if there is one? Because I always think there's a thin line between those two things when people say I'm a manager or a coach. And what do you see as the difference, and what are the difference in behaviors?
Well, when you say coaching, are you referring to like leadership?
Yes,
or
correct,
coaching investors?
Yeah. No, I'm on about, leadership. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm with you. And in a major way, I think leadership is coaching, so it fits perfectly. I think the major difference between leadership and coaching versus the traditional old school kind of management is leadership is about bringing people up with you. And coaching is about having people in a way that works for them, because we all have, our different qualities about us. We all have our different ways of receiving information. It requires understanding what works for people. What may motivate this guy disempowers that guy. So it's having an understanding of your people that you're leading and being able to approach them in a way that actually produces the result that you want. Tony, that might be the biggest difference is, in management, it creates this pressure, and it puts people in this almost survival kind of state, where they've got to do it because the boss said they got to do it. And, there's everything that comes with that. And it's not very empowering versus, I'm here to develop myself, and I'm here to make a difference, and I'm here to discover how I can add as much value to other people. So you're speaking into that kind of listening versus more of a demanding, kind of controlling people to do what you want, rather than uplifting and empowering them into taking action that's purposeful for them. So I think that's one of the biggest distinctions, is how you work with people. And then, leadership is about making sure the people that you're leading can see the vision that you're leading them towards. I think in management, people get stuck in the daily task and just the doing and the doing and the doing. But what they're doing isn't in service of something bigger. And I think that's one of the most important jobs as a leader, is to inspire that bigger mission, that bigger vision, that making the world a better place that they're enrolled in and they want to be a part of. And everything they do is in service of something that makes a contribution to the world. And I don't think that you had a lot of that going on in the old school style of leadership, but I think that's what people are looking for. They want to make a meaningful difference with their work. And it's the leader's job to have the vision of the company be something that the people in the company can get behind, like it's their own vision. Because if I'm working with people and they're there working because it's their vision or it aligns with their vision, they're going to outwork me, because it's theirs as well. So it's like shared responsibility, shared ownership, and everybody playing a game that's bigger than just going through the motions on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, great. One of the things I really loved about when we met at Future Proof, Josh, was that there's a lot of talk around advisors growing their AUM, grow your AUM, and it's all that sort of growth. But there's very rarely talk on the leadership that's involved in the people. And that's why I think what you do is really, really unique, right? So I think that's when you look at high performing advisors or high performing leaders, what are the sort of skill sets or the things that they show or have that creates them into being that successful or high performing individual?
I think that's a great question. Just to set it up, I think what you said is perfect. It's that a lot of advisors are looking to scale their practice, but what they don't see is you cannot scale your business past your own personal development. So it's like your development is the ceiling. So the business will scale to the degree that you scale yourself and to the degree that you expand yourself. And that leads me to my answer, is that the successful, high-performing advisors, they tend to be the ones that are working on themselves. They're investing in themselves. They're reading. They're taking courses. They're up to date with, ClickFunnels, with internet marketing, with like what's happening in the world. And they're courageous. I think courage is one of the biggest differentiators between, the high performers and the low performers, because they're willing to do what they're afraid of in the face of being afraid of it. And there's something really powerful about courage. As soon as you face it, it's kind of like the thing that you were afraid of isn't there in the first place. And it has you constantly expand yourself and expand your boundaries and, take risks, but the right kind of risk. So I would definitely say courage. I would say that they all have a future. They have this future that they're living into. They have this vision of the way that it could be that really works for people, that's driving them. So they're being driven by a vision. That vision's big enough that they're able to find the courage within themselves to overcome the obstacles that the other people in the space aren't willing to overcome. And then I would say they practice their craft. We work with a lot of advisors and we do a lot of group presentations, and you'd be shocked by the number of professionals that just wing it. They wing it, and they get away with winging it, is why they wing it. But it's like, there's a difference between someone who's mastered their craft. There's a difference between Michael Jordan and, the guy at the park, he's out there and he's getting a couple buckets. I see mastery in them, and they love what they do. Right.
There's always, on these podcasts, I love sports. You obviously played sports. How much of alignment from the things that we're talking about here come from sports, and can you approach? Because I always think an office or an office environment is like the changing room, right? So if you've got a good changing room or a good office, you're going to perform on the pitch. So how much of your approach, philosophies, viewpoint, whatever it may well be, do you think you've carried on from sports and brought into what you do now?
Yeah, that's a great question. But before I answer it, I have to back up, because when you started, you're like somewhat of a sports star. That's really generous. I played a little bit of Division II college football, so I would by no means sports star.
The details don't matter. The details don't, for the purposes of this, Josh.
You know, I know.
You're a sporting superstar, and if you wanted to, you could have made it pro, but you chose not to because of an injury, and now you're here today. So you're not saying that. I'm saying that. So it's okay to elaborate on the truth sometimes if you're not saying it. So you could have been a superstar. So how much of that could have been brought into this world? Yeah,
I'll take it. I think it's a couple of things. Number one, critical to my personal success. So one of the most valuable lessons that one, my dad taught me, and another, my mom taught me. The first was from my father, which was, if you outwork everybody, you win. And I believed that my whole life. And that was something that I was able to prove and find evidence for through sports. Just, before practice, I was practicing. At practice, I was giving everything I had. And then after practice, I was practicing. And my dad was my coach throughout my childhood. So a lot of that I wasn't thankful for at the time. You come home from practice, you don't want to practice. But it's a valuable lesson that I've been able to take into my professional career, which is the value of hard work. And with that, I've found that the hard work in itself is valuable. That, nothing that I've gotten easy is worth having. And anything that I'm proud of to the degree of the work that I put in to accomplish it. So that's the one thing. But the second thing is, yes, an office functions like a team. And I think a great team has authenticity. A great team is transparent. A great team has hard conversations with each other. And these are all the things that you learn in a locker room. You can't have people going against each other, or these like fractions or silos of people, because then the whole team falls apart and you lose the game. So the whole idea of an aligned team is really what it takes to win in sports, and it's what it takes to win in business. And it's a lot of the same things. And then there's the coach. In sports, the coach gets in your face, and they're going to pull something out of you if they're a good coach that you didn't know you had. And I see that same thing in business as well. The scoreboards change, but it's very much a game. And if you've got everybody moving in the same direction, everyone's committed to winning the Super Bowl, whatever your Super Bowl is, you're way more likely than if you got one guy that's got, some inspiration and everybody else is there for a 9 to 5, you're in trouble. So a lot of that I learned from sports. Yeah, that's a great question.
Amazing. So in your view, so financial advisors now with books of business, whether it's 100 million, 500 million AUM, and they've probably gone into that business thinking, I'm doing this because I love financial advice, and they end up doing very little financial advice. Actually, we're doing that. But so if they want to step into more of a coaching leader role and grow that business, what would your advice be, or what shifts in mindset or structure do you believe are most critical for someone trying to make that transition into that world?
Yeah, that's really important. It actually takes a complete shift in the way that you're thinking about the business. So if you think about how financial advisors are trained, most of them are trained as insurance agents or some sort of, salesperson. And they're selling, and they're doing their sales process through this multi-meeting process. It's long, it's drawn out. You're giving away your time for free. And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, it ultimately, if you're successful, it sets you up to have every single client wanting to work with you, only you. It sets you up to have a calendar full of the same meetings over and over and over and over again that are one-on-one. And you eventually reach this ceiling of capacity that you can't scale past. And then the game becomes just not going backwards. Okay, so that's like the traditional financial planning world. Now, if you're going to make this shift, it starts with shifting the way you think about the business and who you are in the business. So what we teach is you've got to think like an entrepreneur. Financial planners do not think like entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs think about, number one, a vision. What's the vision that I'm out to cause in the world? Number two, they think about who are the people that I need to put in the right place to accomplish this vision. And then after that, there's the systems, the processes, the technology. So the whole mindset's got to shift to how can I create something that lives on even in my absence? How do I have a business that I could take off 6 months from and it's still going to grow? And I know that no one's going to call me and say, hey, the thing's on fire. We need you back. So very few advisors have that. Very few successful advisors have the people, the systems, and the processes that allow for them to have any sort of entrepreneurial freedom and to be able to step away from the business and still grow the business. It's hard to find good talent. It's hard to find young advisors, but that's what you would have to do. You'd have to shift your attention from, oh, I want more technology, or I want better products, or I want, whatever the next best thing is in the market to sell them, to where can I find the next generation of leader? Where can I find more rainmakers? Where can I find people to teach what's made me successful? So there's like this passing of the baton that has to happen if you want to make that shift, where you've also got to trust. You've got to trust other people with your clients and with your business. So that's the first part, Tony. The second part is the business model itself. And you would want to shift from a primarily one-on-one way of going about business to a one-to-many. So I've done an online virtual course with our founder here. We co-led it together. We had over 1,000 people on it. Great. And out of that event, we moved over 140 million net new assets under management.
So say that again. Sorry, have I heard that correctly? Just
exactly.
Is that like, is that a genuine? Because that stat sounds unbelievable. Say that again.
Yeah. And our compliance will definitely disclose it at the end of this. Yeah. But yeah, we had an American Dream experience. It's our 2-day transformational event around money and investing. We had over 1,000 people attend virtually, and we moved over 140 million of new assets from that one event. If you think about, if you think about the old model, and this is what I'll tell advisors when I'm on the road doing these kind of talks at conferences, is how long would it take you to see 1,000 clients in your current model? And the reality is most of them wouldn't live long enough. It would take too much time. So I think that event really demonstrates the power of leveraging groups. Miracles happen in groups. And that's another part of the shift of who you are as the advisor, is going from being a planner to being an entrepreneur and a leader. So you want to be a leader that's building a community. You want to be a leader that's leading a community. You have group training, you have group education, you have group portfolio reviews, and you've got to make your events engaging. They've got to be experiential, and they've got to be something that people want to participate in. And that's another thing that makes this hard to communicate, is because when I talk to advisors, I say, hey, our model is events, one-to-many. Oh, I've done the events. No, you've done the free steak dinner with the mailers where you get 40 people there. They come in, they eat all your food, and maybe you get one client. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having content that's rigorously designed to touch, move, and inspire people, have them get connected to how important their money is. People spend their whole life making money, saving money, working out how to invest it for retirement, but they know nothing about it. They know nothing about it. So what if you empowered a community of people to understand investing, to have a purposeful relationship to money, and then to create this self-sustaining, self-expanding community of clients who are raving fans and they're filling your next workshop? So that's really the shift from the one-on-ones financial planner to the entrepreneurial leader, building something that can grow without you and leading a community of raving fans.
Amazing. I do love listening to you, Josh. I think it's brilliant. So you've obviously done this a few times. I mean, this public speaking, you're obviously very good at it. But so you joined the industry in 2014, is that right? So you've been in financial advice 11 years. How has leadership changed from 2014 to 2025? And how do you think it needs to change from 2025 to 2030, for example? Because you look at, I'll give you a bit of time to think about this one because it's a complicated question.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, but you think about with using AI and bots, and you're going to be, I see the future leader managing people and bots and technology. And, so if you look at the changes that's happened from leaders from 2014 to now, the first part of the question is, how have they changed, and what are the developments you've seen in leadership within financial services since you entered the industry?
That's a tough one. I think that in the industry, financial advisors are just now considering themselves as a leader. I just don't think when I started, that was a conversation. It wasn't about how do I become a better leader? It was about, how do I sell more products, or how do I be more technically skilled? And I think that that's the thing that's really missing in this industry is we overemphasize the technical ability. And we put all of our time into CE credits and learning new tax strategies. And I think that we're now reaching a point where there's so much commoditization happening in the space where everybody looks like everybody else. Differentiation has disappeared. So if you can't separate yourself with products, with technology, with your services, with your holistic planning, with the alternatives, because everybody else is doing it, what advantage do you have? And that's where leadership becomes important. So I would say now advisors are starting to get, I've got to be different. I've got to be the value add. I've got to be the one that in the way in which I show up is what people buy. And that's something that I'll say frequently is people don't really buy what you're selling. They buy who you are.
Yeah.
And we all know people that they've got something about them. They've got this gravitational pull to them. And it really doesn't matter what they're selling or where they're going or what they're doing. But if they invite you, you're a yes.
Yeah.
You're going. Why? Because they asked me. So I think the question is, how do you become one of those people where your influence has this gravitational pull? So that's what I would say. I think it's just starting to be a conversation about the value of leadership. Most advisory firms that I'm with, Tony, or that we've seen, they're pretty small. You've got 1 to 5 advisors, you got a couple staff people, and leadership isn't a conversation really in the office. It's we do what the founder tells us. We've got our issues that we have, and that's the way that it works. And I think people are seeing the value of leadership in its ability to, number one, have your team be more effective, and then number two, eventually scale to this new model.
Yeah, interesting. And obviously I do recruitment in my day job outside the podcast hosting, obviously, but the amount of people that I hear leaving or joining because of a leader is huge. They're either leaving because the leader is poor and there's no direction, or they're staying because the leader is believing in them, showing them where they're going, creating. So I think people talk about recruitment and retention and those sort of things as well. Leadership plays such a big part in that as well. But that, again, that sometimes is forgotten as well, because people I think the saying is people leave managers, they don't leave businesses. That's the saying, isn't it? And I see that a lot, so leadership creates an environment, but also helps with recruitment and retention in every way as well. Don't you see that?
Yeah, in a major way. Yeah. People only follow a leader.
Yeah.
If you're not leading, people are not following. They might be there, but they're not following. And typically, if you're listening and you've been in a job where there's no leadership, it's frustrating. And it kind of feels like a waste of your time because there's, what am I doing here? I'm interested, Tony, just because of the way that you see leadership too. What would you say that you've seen in the biggest shifts from back to 2014 to, where we are now? And how leadership is evolved.
Thanks, first of all. I think you're the first person that's asked me a question on these podcasts, actually. So thank you for that. I think the shift is going from a TAL style management, where do this and do that many years ago. Whereas now I think I said this to you before, the seed analogy I love, where if you've got the seed is the person and you can put that seed in an environment that's got sunshine and it will blossom and flower. That to me is great leadership, and the sunshine is people creating an environment for people to flower. And the other side is dark, shade, and that seed does not blossom. So the environment, the seed is the same, but the environment has an impact on what happens to that seed. So I think the biggest change I've seen is that people are creating environments now for people to blossom and understanding the importance of it and the importance of creating an environment for people to blossom and flower. Whereas before, I think it was all about just feeling superior many years ago and saying, work harder, I'm the boss, and this is who I am. So I think there's definitely a big shift that I'm seeing, but there's definitely more of a shift that's needed moving forwards as well. But for me, it's all about, you want to be in an environment where you've got purpose and a destination, which is what you said earlier. And I think so that's probably the biggest change I've seen really is environmental, creating environments.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful the way that you said it. And it really sets up what I think the next evolution of leadership is. And this is really at the heart of what I'm personally interested in and professionally interested in, which is empowering individuals to be both the seed and the sunlight. That they can be responsible for their environment, regardless of what's happening outside of them, regardless of the circumstances. You can grow yourself. You can be your own sunlight. And that takes a lot of work. It takes seeing, what am I projecting on the people around me? Oh, that's not them, that's me. And it's, doing that kind of inner work and finding yourself in a place where you can be 100% responsible for your own quality of life and your own personal development. Now, it's not for everybody. It's, it's much easier to complain about the environment, to say, wait a second, this guy, he's like so demanding and so angry sometimes. But then to say, wait, to look in the mirror and say, oh, that bothers me because I can also be demanding and I can also be, hey, thank you for showing me myself. And that's really my experience, Tony. And I don't know that it's true. But what I know is that when someone's bothering me, I've got two choices. Either I gossip, I complain, I confront it, or I look inward and I see, what is it about that person that's bothering me? And I'll actually write it out. And then I'll search myself and say, unfortunately, I always find, oh, I have that same thing too. And there's a part of me that does that I haven't accepted about myself. And the moment that I get, oh, I can be that way too, they stop bothering me. So that's what I mean by the sunlight, is bringing awareness to the parts of ourselves that get bothered and projected onto others and reclaiming that. Because if you do that, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable, and it doesn't matter where you at. Now you are creating the environment rather than being at the effect of it.
Amazing. Josh, I know we're, I've got about 30 other questions. I've got 30 other questions to ask you, but I know we've got a bit of a time, a stoppage day. So I might have to get you back on in future and I can finish the other questions at some point. I always ask my guests at the end, if for any advisors that are looking to sort of, or to break into that leadership, for example, are there any one book and one podcast that you would recommend them reading or listening to help understand and change their mindset to get into that level?
Totally. Do I have permission? I'd like to share the one book, and then I'd like to share these 5 principles that I put together. Really just looking at my own road to success. I like you said, I started as an intern. I'm now the co-CEO. And I've done a lot of reflecting on what had this happen. Book, you can't go wrong with Think and Grow Rich. I would say Think and Grow Rich once a year. You reread it, and not only do you read it, you do what it says in the book. Like, I could show you all my note cards with my future statement, what I desire, what I'm going to give up for it. And, it's a crazy thing. Every time I do it and I write something out, and you could even set it to the side, forget about it for 2 or 3 years. You're going to look back and be like, it happened. So there's some really powerful technology in that. So that's what I would have advisors start with, to make that shift, to begin to understand the power of their own thinking and to begin to understand the power of their having a desire and the power of saying, it's going this way, whatever it takes. No retreat. I am all in. And it's something about that kind of courage. It points back to courage, something about the courage to say, I'm going to make this happen or I'm going to perish. It's like we've all heard the burn the boats, but there's some real validity and power to that. So that's what I would say. the things that I would do as an advisor, are, which I've personally done that have led to my success. I've got 5 principles of success. One is find a mentor. This changed my life completely. When I started as an intern, I can remember watching our founder and CEO on stage at a conference. We had 300 advisors in the room, and I'm in the back of the room, and I'm watching him on stage, and I was blown away. I'm like, how does someone learn how to do that? and I want to do that. Now, at this time, Tony, if I held a microphone, my hand would literally shake. I couldn't get the words out. So I just simply said, hey, Mark, what did you do to become the kind of leader that you are? And he gave me this list of books, this list of trainings, and I took them all like my life depended on it. So find someone that has what you want, ask them how they got there, and do exactly what they say. Okay. Number 2 is you want to invest in yourself. Just this year, I've spent $100,000 in my own personal development. It tells your brain something. If you're willing to give up your own money, if you're willing to pay for your own investment, that you're worth it and you're valuable. So I would invest in your own personal training and development. You want to have a vision. You need a vision. If I don't have a vision, I'm not inspired. I'm exhausted. I'm worn down, and everything seems hard. You know, when I have a vision, I'm uplifted. I'm alive. My energy's expansive, and I'm out and I'm making it happen. You want to create a future. So I do this whole talk on the power of a future. And what most of us miss is that the future is only a conversation. It only exists in language. You'll never find the future, Tony. If I said, take the next 20 minutes, search your office for the future, where is it? You can't find it. It doesn't exist physically. It exists as a conversation that we're having, but it impacts us in the present moment. So if I win the lottery, but I find out I don't get the money for 365 days, I'm not going to wait 365 days to be excited about having won the lottery because it's not the money that makes us happy. It's the future of having the money that makes us happy. And you could create that anytime. So you want to be uplifted now, create an empowering future. Okay. And the last one is you want to build a network. You need a network of centers of influence. So it's not just one mentor. I got Brandon Tatum is a good friend of mine. He's a social media influencer. He's teaching me how to play that game. I've met with Dean Graziosi, marketing legend and expert. He's taught me so much in a short amount of time about marketing. Steve Zaffron, he wrote this program called the Landmark Forum. The guy was like a business enlightened guru. It taught me so much. So it's like I would build my coalition of people that have expertise in different areas of life, because you don't have to go in and reinvent the wheel. You just find the people that have what you want and you do what they did. And that's really the shortcut to success.
What a guy, Josh. You've been honestly, I love how you talk. I think it's the future, and some of the tips you've given there are amazing. I know you've got to go now. Thank you for being a great guest. And if anyone wants to get hold of Josh or look at his content, I'll put a link underneath the post when it comes out so you can contact Josh directly. But Josh, have a great day. Thanks for being a great guest. And I hope that our listeners have enjoyed you listening to you as much as I have.
Yeah, thank you for who you are, Tony. Thanks for the opportunity. Have me back anytime. I really appreciate your vision. I appreciate what you're causing in the world and who you are, man. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to High Performance Financial Advisor. If you found today's episode valuable, make sure you subscribed on your favourite podcast platform so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, keep performing.